Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and another card making video. Today I am playing with one of my favorite stamp sets from Heffy Doodle, the Prehistoric Pals. And I'm making a slimline card that is interactive, which is also one of my favorite things to do. There's the Prehistoric Pals stamp set. I'm also using Geology rocks and the Slimline pull tab die set, the Stitched Hills and Rocks, this Cloudy Skies stencil. Now this stencil is all hooked together, so you can snip apart the little tabs on the stencil and slide your paper in for some ink blending. Or you can be super brave like me and cut your stencil apart into strips, which is what I did. I'm also using these stitched slimline dies to create my background panel, which I'm going to ink blend starting with mustard seed. Now I really wanted a volcanic looking sky, so that's what I'm going to do with some ink blending, and I'm really going to be building up the layers on this card. So I know at first it looks quite messy and not very well blended at all, but you just have to keep going sometimes. You have a look in mind, and sometimes you just need to not give up and keep going and see what you can create. I'm adding layers of ink and layers of splatter to create my sky. So it's going to look like a hot mess for a minute, but we will get there. So I had spiced marmalade for my middle layer of clouds, and then my final layer of clouds is candied apple. So I'm really trying to go with these bright red, orange, yellow colors for that volcanic looking sky. Now I'm going to dab off my red tool here and then go over the top of what I already did to really add in some more color, but with a softer look. So I have a contrast between the dark red and the light red, and hopefully really start to blend those three colors together. So there's the spiced marmalade sponge again and the mustard seed, and I'm going to go back over that one more time just like this and really bring those colors together. Next will be the splattering. So I'll bring in my distress sprayer filled with water, spritz my paper, and then let that set just while I grab my paper towel to pick up the excess water. And there I have those first layers of splatter. I love that oxidation look. Next I have Distress Oxide sprays in mustard seed. I spritzed it to get the fine mist and then shook or tapped the nozzle across the paper to get those larger splatters. And I always clean off the nozzle before putting it away. Now I have carved pumpkin. I didn't have the spiced marmalade, but this worked really well. And I'm going to spray that for the fine mist of color and then tap the nozzle to get those larger splatters as well. And then for my third color, I do have candied apple. And before I use this, I like to shake it like a bell to get the color mixed in really well. So then I'll spray it, and you can see this time when I sprayed it, I got some larger splatters from the spray, and I was a little concerned about that largest one. But when you're splattering, so much of your card is going to be covered up with your images. So again, it's time to just go with it. So I'll let that dry. I have another panel cut with my stitched slimline rectangle, and then I'm using the stitched borders. Now you can see this is not as long as a slimline card, but sometimes you can use what you already have, like I did with the cloudy stencils, and repurpose them, so to speak, for slimline cards. Just by moving that die over, I was able to cut a slimline shape. Plus, these dies have stitch lines on either side of the cut line, so I was able to flip over my second panel for my other hill. And then I cut off any excess off the bottom of it that I didn't need, and then brought in my slimline pull tab to cut that slit where I'm going to add my stamped element that's going to move. I also need to cut it from the background panel. So I'm going to trace that opening with my pencil and then lay my die over the top and die cut that. And I was a little scared it wasn't going to line up, but it lined up pretty good. So now I need to cut this opening right here, which is where the end of the pull tab is going to show so the person can grab it and move it back and forth. Now I'm going through three layers, the two hills and my background, so I'm going to trace that first, and then I can die cut each of these three layers individually. So I have the two hills done, and then I can trace that opening and die cut my background, and you can see the edge of the die butts up against the edge of the paper, which is really handy. Next, I have the stitched stone dies that I'm die cutting from some gray paper and my two hills. I'm going to spray those with Distress Oxide spray in black soot, and this is going to give them a really nice texture and bring them to life. So I'll spray the hills as well and set everything aside to dry while I go ahead and stamp out my images for today's card. I'm using the Heffy Doodle alcohol-friendly cardstock for my paper today. It's great paper for alcohol marker coloring. It blends the colors together very easily because it's not too heavy weight of paper. So here you can see all of my images stamped and colored. Somehow it did not get recorded when I colored these, so sorry about that, but there's all the markers I used. And now I'm going to die cut these out using my Heffy Doodle mini die cut machine. It is so sturdy with its wide base, and I love that the plates are about 3 inches wide, so I can really cut a decent sized image with this. It's so small and handy. I use it a lot. Isn't it cute? So here are my stamped and die cut images. I kind of laid them out on my glass mat so that I could see how they might go on my card. And then I was ready to put my card together. So I'm gluing on my hills, lining up the opening for the pull tab and that little slit where my image will move back and forth. Next, I have 2 of the pull tab arms. One, I'm cutting off that extra end piece and gluing them both together to create a more sturdy arm. Because this is so long, it can easily bend, but doubling it up helps prevent that. Now I'm folding in the ends in a Z fold. Then you pinch together the 2 center pieces and insert that through the slit in the paper from the back. When you lay those flat, then you have the place where you attach the image that you want to move. There's also a circle in this die set that you can glue to the top of this to help it lie flat, and I found that to be very helpful. Next, I'm gluing on my second hill right in front there, and then I'm adding the arrow piece to the end of my pull tab arm, which was a little short for my card, so this helped extend it, and it was very helpful that way as well this time because my opening for my pull tab is quite far over to the right hand side of my card. Okay, so now we need to stabilize this arm so it doesn't move back and forth. This die right here die cuts a strip with 2 scored lines. You want to put the glue in the middle section and glue it down to your background. Then you're going to glue the little arm or the little tab over onto the other tab so that no glue is touching the arm of the pull tab at all, and that will help stabilize it. Next, I wanted to remove a little bit of the white space for the inside of my car, so when I put Mr. Stoney, as I like to call him, in the car, then it looks more like he's setting in there. I did not actually want his feet to show because they just didn't show enough to make it look good, so I just snipped him off. Sorry, Mr. Stoney. Next, I'm attaching him to the pull tab using a foam square. When I moved it, I found when I tried to scoot him back, the foam square was catching on that front hill. So I actually had to trim the foam square down a couple times. But now I'm going to attach all my remaining images, so the volcano there atop the hill, and I thought the splatter worked really well. I wasn't upset about any of those large splatters, and I love the way the sky turned out. You can't tell how messy it really looked there in the beginning. And then I added my house with foam squares. I glued on Mrs. Stoney and their dinosaur pet, and now I'm adding in my rock elements. They really blend in with the background, but they also help to give it a little bit of dimension and some fun detail. I added one more rock there on the bottom right side of the card, but it just seemed lonely. So I actually am going to remove the teeny tiny rock from the left side and move it over, which is the beauty of using liquid adhesive. I love liquid adhesive. It's my go-to. And so I was able to move that over and it looked much better. Now I have foam tape all around my pull tab, but not touching it so that it's easier to grab that pull tab and it makes for a sturdy card. I adhered it to an 8.5 by 7 card base that was scored at 3.5. And there I am trimming away more of that foam square so I can move my pull tab much easier. I stamped Have a Mammoth Day in the upper right corner with VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is the perfect ink to use over the top of an ink blended background. And I had to include the mammoth because of my sentiment, and I'd already colored him, and he's so cute. So that was a nice thing to add to the inside of the card, as well as the 2 large stones I had left over. I just love bringing a bit of the scene from the outside of the card to the inside for a nice surprise when you open it. So you have the surprise of the pull tab where Mr. Stoney is driving home from work, and then you have the surprise on the inside as well. And that volcanic sky, it makes my day. I love it so much. I hope that you have enjoyed today's card, and thank you so much for stopping by and shopping my links. That means so much to me. It means I can bring you more videos, and I will be back again very soon with the next stamping video. So if you're new, feel free to subscribe and ring the little bell, and YouTube will let you know next time I upload a video. I will see you then. Happy stamping. Bye.